each stage is a greater distancing from the wellspring of being, and it's brought us, to the valley of dry bones, to the valley of the apocalypse, and now the fat is in the fire. Now we'll find out what stuff man is made of as the chickens come home to roost. But well, no, I'm very optimistic. I just Is it my metaphors or my pessimism? Oh, the horrible metaphors.
The metaphors. I'm used to
yes,
it.
well, the rhetorical hyperbole, unbridled. But to say what's never been said, to do what's never been done, to paint what's never been painted, to dance what's never been danced, this is, somehow you're acting for everybody when you do that. It's an amazing thing to do something that's never been done. It means once you've done it, it's been done.
Pushing the limits out.
That's right.
Putting the fence, it's like a fence going out bigger and bigger, and like all these great minds that go out there and fence off a big area for all of humanity to run around in this area of being and knowing, and it's this whole process of
it's what aeronautical engineers call stretching the envelope. When you fly a fighter plane, you have the predicted engineering performance characteristics, but once you validate that it can do that, then it's up to the pilot to find out, to stretch the envelope, to find out what it can really do, how fast it can turn, how fast it can climb. And that's what we as creative artists do for the human enterprise. And the lacking ingredient is courage, I think. I mean, often I have the feeling that it's no longer, at least in my own life, about seeking the answer. It's about facing it. It isn't about, is it yoga, is it Taoism, is it this, is it that? Now, I think that now I know, at least for me, what it is, but the answer is so appalling and requires such courage to execute it and carry it through that I don't know what to do. I have no doubt that we could all become the Taoist hermit on Cold Mountain, and be that person of whom people in the valley say, "Oh, him, we see him sometimes when it snows very deeply because he comes further down for wood. He comes and goes in the mist and never talks to anybody." We could all become that person. There are no barriers to ultimate spiritual attainment, but what about, your mortgage and your lover and your devotion to French chocolate and all of these things? That's tricky. That's very, very tricky.
Learn how to bake.
Because it really all washes out. Maybe just for an hour of peaking, but it really puts all of that in perspective.
But for instance, like the matter of the flying saucer, I have no doubt that if you took 10 people selected from this group and trekked days east of Death Valley and, stayed up all night, and then everybody took 8 dried grams of mushrooms and hooped and hollered and waited, that something would happen that would be so appalling and so destructive to our preconceptions of what's possible in this universe that you just come out of it, pointing into the desert and saying, But I'm careful. I don't doubt that appalling things can happen, and that reality can be completely pulled to pieces. And I don't know what that means, but I want to really try and deal with that on my terms. And that's a kind of fear, it's a kind of holding back. That's why, I know people who seem to me superhumanly reckless. I mean, they tell me the things they do, and I just shake my head, because of the power, of the vistas, of the energies that they must have laid their hands on. It's too much for me. I'm a simple scholar and bookish collector type. I'm like Brother John here. We like our home and hearth. But that's the challenge, you see. That's the weird thing about the psychedelics. It is a path, but in a sense it's the end of the path. And then what do you do? Now it's up to you. It's no more about, the guru says in 5 years you'll make progress, or if you just keep eating this spirulina or fiddling with your crystals or something. It's that, no, you've arrived. Now, what do you do with it? Are you really want to be a wandering figure at the edge of civilization, glimpsed occasionally in your tattered cloak with your wild ravings?
Well, that's not the only option. We were talking, Mitch and I were talking this morning about...
Thank you, Tim.
It's tough to do that with kids, see, I know. We were talking about envisioning something and how these plants help you to generate a vision of something real that you want to create or organize in the world, and then they help you to have the discipline and the dedication to carry them out in the real day-to-day, telephone calls and how do I get the money for it kind of way. And that, I think, is a real strength that all of us have, and that it's one of the responsibilities of being granted the visions, is to make the visions then as real as you can. I mean, we do have our bodies here on earth for some time to come. We do have pleasure, of course, which we should all indulge in, but we also have responsibility to make it as much like, even if it's a small step, as much like that fantastic thing we can see in our visions. And I think that, it gives you the object, and then it helps you move toward it. And then we need to do that work and keep refreshing our vision if it gets weak or we start to give up on it, or if we need to shift direction slightly.
I go back to astrology and Saturn drawing a ring around the vision, and then Saturn's stairway, envisioning the steps that it takes to get there, and that you can't jump 40 steps up without losing part of the foundation. And that as an artist myself, I'm finally getting to a place of patience and realizing that the slower it goes, the better it gets. And the statement that I like is, if I only had more time, I'd use less words to write. It's like choosing things carefully and allowing the process. And for years I was just like, I've got to get this out, I've got to, but not anymore. It's now I'm really seeing that slow, patient steps create a foundation strong enough to someday, even if it's not in this lifetime, to manifest that dream.
If you use the quality of your daily life as your currency for how you're proceeding towards something, then you know if the quality of your daily life is good, deep, satisfying, and you have a goal, you're probably on the right path, right? If you're saying, God, it's just going to be hell for 3 years till I can get this project together, you maybe should think about it again,
I see that process reflected on a greater scale in just the evolution of life itself, and that if life were to very quickly achieve the knowing pure spirituality, then what good is it? And that's like through humans and through all of our history and time. And so even this coming moment, 2012, that might just be like this reflection of another even more ultimate. It most likely is. Yeah. And it's just that reflection, and it's really this endlessly drawn out patient process which is taking its time as long as possible so that every aspect will work into place or whatever. So it's just